In this section, we're going to talk about controllers, but we can't talk about controllers without talking about scope. So let's look at the relationship between controllers and scope. A controller's primary responsibility is to create a scope object. A scope object is how we communicate with the view, and the scope is able to communicate with the view through two-way communication. The view can bind to properties and results of functions on the scope, and events on the view can call methods on the scope. Data passes in this way from the controller to the scope, and from the scope back and forth to the view. The scope is used to expose the model to the view, but the scope is not the model. The model is the data that is put into the scope. If we want to modify the model, we can either use methods that are on the scope to modify the model, perhaps in response to events fired by the view, or using two-way bindings, we can modify the model. In this way, users, through the view, can make modifications to the model, or, in other words, can make modifications to the data. Let's review with a quiz. What is the primary responsibility of the controller? The controller's primary responsibility is to create the scope. Is the scope the model? No, the scope is not the model. The scope merely contains the model. Can the view bind to functions on the scope? Yes, you can bind your view to both functions and properties on your scope object.